Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am Ariana from The Therapist Next Door. So this is a continuation video about my dating tips, but this is for dates 3 and on. You've already met somebody that you're interested on, you've already been on a couple of dates with them. These are all going to be tips related to how you may want to approach that third date and on. Again, just a disclaimer, these are my personal opinions as a therapist, as a woman, and also most of my tips are going to be in reference to heterosexual dating, but you can apply the idea of the masculine and feminine energies and how they work together to any couple, including same-sex couples or bisexual couples or any part of the LGBTQ beautiful rainbow. So now you've been on a few dates with this person. Hopefully you are kind of feeling some level of attraction, some level of interest. So should have said this earlier, this is more for my intentional daters, people that know what they're looking for. They're probably looking for more of a long-term relationship. Something that I want you to think about is connection and compatibility. In my experience, a lot of my relationships haven't worked out because one of those things was there and one of those things wasn't. As a couples therapist, I think that having both of those is probably one of the most important things in terms of the successful couples that I see, the ones that make it, the ones that feel really satisfied being together, is having connection and compatibility. I'm gonna say that again, connection and compatibility. So what do I mean when I say connection? Yes, obviously there's that attraction that I spoke to, but there's also just that chemistry, that spark, that vibe. You feel like, you've known this person for a long time. You really feel like you can be yourself. You might even do your ugly laugh. You feel really, really comfortable with this person, but you also feel excited. I think that maybe I should talk about what it feels like when the connection isn't there. Maybe this person seems like a really nice person. They've been doing all the right things. They look like somebody that most people would find attractive, but you're not feeling like you can fully be yourself, or it's not feeling entirely natural to be around this person. You might even be noticing a little bit of anxiety that you're feeling in your body, a little bit of discomfort. That's a really good indicator that the connection isn't there. I will tell you from my own experience, especially being in my 30s, as I got to more intentional dating, I of course had this mental list of all these criteria that I had for the men that I was dating. And I met a few men along the way that met so many of those criteria. They were checking off every box on that list, but guess what? The connection wasn't there. So a lot of times I was finding myself forcing myself to go along and go on more dates with these kinds of people because, I thought that they were so compatible for me. They were checking off all the boxes, but really inside I was forcing it. It didn't feel natural to be with them physically. There was maybe missing some of that, natural banter or that more emotional connection. So just be aware of that. So compatibility is really more of that idea of the checkbox. You line up with a lot of the things that are important to you, your values, your lifestyle, so if you're a cat person, you're with the cat person. If you're a dog person, you're with a dog person. Things like that, I think over the long term, you do need to have compatibility for a successful relationship to work. Now, when you bring both connection and compatibility, I think that's where you have relationships that are so satisfying that even when they have rough patches, there's that desire to work through things because it's so worth it, because you do have those two really important things going. So my recommendation here, use your intuition to assess for both compatibility and connection, especially your intuition with connection. Compatibility, you kind of may need to use more of your intellectual or your reasoning side, just to make sure on the flip side, you could be really, really, really magnetized to somebody, really, really attracted to them, but you're not compatible in any way. It's just not going to work down the road. So be mindful of that too, because you could save yourself some heartache there as well. So use your intuition, use your logical mind to discern for compatibility and connection. Be honest and vulnerable. I think that these are some of the most important things that you can bring into dating, especially once you're on date 3, 4, 5 and on. It's really important to bring that real version of yourself. And I think vulnerability is really attractive because what it does is it really unifies us. I think that what I have found is that we all have so much more in common than we don't. And when we talk about those shared experiences of loss, of joy, of successes, of failures, I think that's when we really start to relate to one another. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Again, this is a recommendation for dates 3 and on. You don't want to do trauma dumping or anything like that in the first few dates. I really think it's important to keep momentum going. So in between dates, there should be some texting, there should be some phone calls happening. If they're not, and you're just kind of having one date a week, it's great that that person's planning those dates or that you guys are being consistent with that, but you're losing a lot of momentum and a lot of connection between those dates. Be mindful that you're not just kind of going MIA between dates and that there's still something happening there. There's still a connection that's being tended to in between your dates. Once you're getting maybe into dates 5 and on, I personally don't think there's anything wrong with starting to introduce this person to maybe friends, family, depending on what kind of family you have. The reason being is that, again, if you're an intentional dater and you're looking long-term, a lot of times we do have blind spots, and so it helps us to have our friends or family maybe give us some feedback on how they thought we were around this person, what they thought about this person, and it also helps us to see if this person is going to mesh well with our existing social group, which I think is really important. So a lot of times people will be surprised to find out that is something a therapist would recommend, but I do recommend doing that, I would say, not too soon, but also not waiting too long. Hopefully these were some helpful tips. Please let me know if you have any others or there's any other insight that you have. I'd love to hear about it. I will see you guys soon. Authentically yours, Ariana.